we are going to be using the Simon Says Stamp hybrid ink cubes. I have to say, after using these, I am not a fan, but we're also going to be using our Misti corners. I'll get to the ink in just a moment. So I'm using the Smile Sentiment first of all. I'm using that angled piece to make sure that my smiles are always at the same angle, and I decided to do my black one first. I used the My Favorite Things hybrid black for that, and then I used that back piece you can see there off the stamps just as some acetate in case I didn't clean off the stamp well enough. I had that a couple of times. It just protects your card. It means that you don't, in theory, get lots of smudges on there. So I just kept lining them up using that piece there to make sure they were straight, and you'll see how I start building up those colours. So the hybrid inks, they're a Simon Says Stamp hybrid ink cube. I bought them because I love my Favorite Things hybrid so much, and I think they actually came in a kit a few months ago in one of the monthly Simon Says Stamp kits. Then I started playing with them. I did this card, and I'll show you another card I did, but they found them really hard to clean off. And I just found that they were a little bit too juicy. They didn't give the best image. They weren't as crisp and clear as I hoped they would be. Now, one thing you will see me doing is just dotting off a little bit on the top of that L on the smile. So I did that so that it didn't kind of dominate on the in between pieces. So I tried to make these tessellate where the L comes between the E and the S of the new smile. So between those last two letters, I tried to line those up, and you'll see that that's what I've done most of the ways along. The inks come in a set of 4 different colours. This I think is called something like Brights or Wilds. I will link it all up in the description below for you. And I just worked my way through. So I was just playing around with them. And each time I had to stamp twice, I just felt that they didn't give me the right impression first time. There were lots of little things about them that I just didn't particularly enjoy working with. I don't think I would buy any more of them, but I've tried them and I wanted to let you know what they were like as well. So this was just me playing around. I'm using my Misti today rather than a Tim Holtz platform, and the gridded paper that I used underneath is a piece of the Stampin' Up! I can't remember exactly what they call it, grid paper, I think. And I cut it down for my mini Misti, actually this one I believe, and I then just laminated it so that I had gridded paper, and I like the fact that I have those inch markings on there. So I'm just continually going up on the smiles, again making it sort of tessellate as much as I can between there, although the E goes slightly over on the top pieces, but that's because I started down the bottom there. But again, you can see with the orange there was gaps, and you'll also see on this one I ended up with smudges where either the L was off the top of the acetate, maybe it was on my fingers. I'm not entirely sure how they ended up there, but I will show you how I fixed those smudges later on. Because smudges happen to us all, and whilst I could have redone this or touched it in so you couldn't see it, I wanted to show you how I deal with things like that when they happen on my cards. So again, I'm using that T-square on the edge just to bring over my angled piece so that it fits a little bit better in there. And I just keep stamping all the way up to the top. And I'm going to trim this down, but I'm stamping on a piece of Neenah Solar White, so just normal stamping cardstock. As I say, I use the Simon Says Stamp hybrid ink cubes. So that is my smile panel done. I think it looks really nice, and I really like how that one black one really does pop out. Now in the smile stamp set, you get a lot of lovely sentiments. I decided to use it looks good on you, and I've used VersaMark, my tidy tray, and the Ranger super fine white embossing powder, and my Wagner heat tool to heat it up. I just cut it straight on my cutter pad for that piece, and there was a little odd bit that I felt just didn't look quite right, so I snipped it with scissors. Now my card base is half 8.5 by 11 Neenah white. It's a piece of black cardstock that is 5 1/4 by 4, and that's the Lawn Fawn black licorice. And then I cut this panel down to 5 inches, that was it, by 3 3/4, and I used a little foam strip, and then again my little corner there just to line up the sentiment in exactly the same way. And I really like how that came out. Now those smudges, I'm using some honeybee sequins, and eventually I got it to focus on the camera, and I glue those on with some glue dots. So sometimes you'll see sequins on a card. Now sometimes they're just there for a pretty effect, and sometimes they just cover when something goes wrong. So if you have this same issue I did, I also wanted to tie in a little bit more with the sequins so it didn't just look like I'd put them there for no reason. So I grabbed some glue dots and put those on there, and I put one over that smile on the black as well, just to give it that extra 3D effect. So I was really pleased with that as well. And here's the finished card and another photo for you. All of these will be on my blog, linked underneath the video, and of course all your supplies will be there as well. So next we have another card for you. This was the panel that went hopelessly wrong, and I threw it away because it all went muddy. I was going to show you how to do a really nice rainbow technique, and it just wasn't working out with those inks. So I switched to the Ombre ink. Again, I'm using the Hello. This is one of the lovely sentiments there. Now when I ink up with Ombre, you'll see me doing these little taps, and I've kept the yellow at the top on all of these hellos, and you'll see me tap, 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 and I move it just slightly left and right just to get rid of those harsh edges. Otherwise you get these really hard lines on your stamp, and it really just, I don't think it looks quite right. So again, I'm using the same triangle piece and that same set square to make sure my cardstock is nice and level. But I really do like these Ombre inks. You may have seen me use them the other day as well. And I think as long as you do that little tap up and down, you'll get a fab technique. Now I will come back and I will show you how to do my rainbow on a stamp technique, almost to make your own ombre pads as well. But that will have to wait for another day. As I say, today everything just seemed to be a complete disaster. I was getting smudges all over the place, and this just wasn't working. It ended up being a really muddy panel, so I wasn't happy with that to come into the video. Anyway, this is the Hello panel. Again, this is a piece of Neenah Solar White. I love stamping on this cardstock. I've done it exactly the same here. This is a slightly larger piece. This is card front size, so it started at 5.5 by 4 1/4. And you'll find I will cut that down to 5 by 3 3/4. And the black piece that, again, I'm going to do on the back there will be 5 1/4 by 4. Now, this stamp, I don't often buy dies, but I decided to buy the dies for this one to see how things go. I'm cutting the Hello out of the Lawn Fawn Black again. And I'm actually going to cut the stitched outline of the Hello from this panel so that I can pop it up on some foam. So I trimmed down my piece so that I could work out where I wanted to trim it from. I also trimmed down that black piece while I was there. So I found exactly how I wanted to do it, and I like using the Tamiya masking tape on a stamped panel because I know it's not going to lift up any ink and it doesn't cause me any tears. It's nice and gentle. Again, I shall link that below for you. I run it through my Vagabond, which is my preferred die cutting machine, and I just popped out all of those centers out the E's and the O's and all those sorts of things. Now the sentiment, I did start stamping on white, and then I used white powder. I must have had a brain fade moment. So I then grabbed, you'll see in a second, I grabbed a piece of black cardstock and redid it. Again, I'm using the Ranger super fine embossing powder, my tidy tray, which are just absolutely amazing to use. And I am using my Wagner heat tool and VersaMark for the ink. So a little bit outshot there, but you can see again I'm using my Wagner heat tool. Again, link everything up in the description for you. I actually just snipped this one using some scissors because it's not very big, and I thought I could probably get it reasonably straight, and I think it came out okay. Again, we have half a piece of 8.5 by 11 that I folded in half of my card base. I'm using the Tonic Funky Tape Runner. It's a brilliant tape runner, really inexpensive but really strong. And on the back of the Hello, I am cutting down some foam pieces to make it fit all over the panel. You could do 1 or 2 layers depending on how much dimension you want. I just want to really pop it up for a bit of extra. And I'm using some Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. This is a really nice liquid adhesive to work with. And then I'm sticking that on the middle of that stitched up Hello panel. And you can see the dimension you've got there. Again, I'm using my Big Mama roll of tape to put some pieces on the back of my black panel just for a little bit more of a pop-up. You'll also notice my wedding ring is back. It's back from the jewelers, and I'm super happy to have that back on my finger again. So that is our finished card. Again, I decided to get some sequins out. Goodness knows why I didn't use my tidy tray to put those in like I normally do. I tried to put them all over the panel, sort of in those white spaces, so it looked, just kind of popped it up a little bit. But here is a close-up of that ombre effect. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and you can see there the dimension that that foam gives you. You can also see a couple of other pictures of all of the cards. These will all, of course, be on the blog. There'll also be full supply list below this video and on the Hedgehog Hollow blog for you. That link will also be below this video. If you're on a mobile device, click that downward arrow in the bottom right hand corner, and if you're on a desktop, click the show me more below the video title. Now do hit those subscribe buttons that will be coming up on your screen shortly. There'll be a little bumblebee and of course the Hedgehog Hollow hedgehog, and I will see you again very soon for another happy Saturday stamping here with Honeybee Stamps. Happy stamping! Bye!